You are listening to Naked Soul Reflections, Mindful Moments for Clothes-Free Living, with your host, Hantune Hart.
Greetings, everyone. Hantune Hart here, and welcome to another episode of Naked Soul Reflection. It's great to be with you all again. This week, I want to share with you about something I might have mentioned before, and it's come to light again. It's this idea that one of my teachers recently shared with me, actually probably a couple months ago, that sometimes we're struggling with something and we wonder, like, how am I ever going to get over this? Why does this pattern continue? And it's the idea that you keep doing something until you don't. I remember her sharing this with me when I was just utterly frustrated with myself and my body and my health. And it was a point in my yoga practice where I just was like, why is nothing shifting? Why is nothing changing? I've been kind of at this plateau, this stagnant place, kind of even lost a little bit of access to certain yoga poses and whatnot, and I didn't understand, or what was I doing wrong, and I felt so much frustration because it also reflected in like my eating habits and stress eating, emotional eating, and then going on these cyclical ups and downs with my eating. And it was just, I just wanted to get the heck out of there. Get the heck out of this constant cycle, this predictable, well, when I get stressed out, I eat all of this stuff, and then I don't want to eat for several days, and this whole imbalance, and I wanted to feel different changes in my body, and I just thought, when is this ever going to change? When is it going to change? And so it was so simple, because after class, again, I felt so much frustration because I just couldn't do so many things, and I was crying. I was in tears. And she said, in response to my sharing about my habits, she said, we keep doing things until we don't. So you'll keep doing it until you don't. And at the time, the response was both comforting and discomforting, comfortable and uncomfortable, because what I loved about it is that it kept the responsibility of it with me. You keep doing something until you don't. So it's not like some magical thing happens, like some otherworldly power is going to come and, suddenly make me not want to eat an entire bag of salted sunflower seeds in shell whenever I get stressed out. But there's also this sense of, so that responsibility lies with me continuing to put in like this conscious effort of just observing, okay, I'm stressed out, and then I went and bought this bag of sunflower seeds. Noticing the pattern and becoming present to the pattern of behavior. So on the one hand, it keeps the responsibility and the accountability with me. That becoming aware and thinking, okay, so I bought the sunflower seeds, I'm starting to eat them. Okay, maybe this time I just eat half the bag, and next time comes around and it's like, maybe I'll just eat a little bit of it. And I do. And then, on the other hand, it felt uncomfortable because there's also a bit of mystery to it. You keep doing things until you don't. So when does the don't happen, right? When does the don't actually take hold? And that part felt a little bit outside of my control. Like when will the effort actually land and become a different way of living? When will I stop stress eating? When will I stop eating an entire bag of, pistachios or sunflower seeds, or when I don't have a whole lot to do on a weekend day, staying at home and just blowing through several different shows on Netflix and eating everything that is in the kitchen. So when will that change? The when of it is the mystery, because we don't always know. We don't always know exactly when something is going to land. But this past week, I had an experience of that where, so I used to drink like tons and tons and tons of coffee, and for a while it wasn't tons, it was just habitual. But and I don't actually have anything against coffee. I think it can be delicious. I think it has its uses. Lots of different debates out there about coffee. I don't have problems with coffee. What I took issue with is my relying on it every time I woke up is that I have to have coffee. And with that, the fact that the way that coffee affects my particular system is that it actually gets me so worked up that I start to get really anxious and nervous. And that piece in particular is what started to concern me, because if I'm already stressed at work, right? And I have coffee that makes me jittery on top of that, then of course those things paired together just kind of made me feel insane and a little bit out of control. And so then in trying to find control, then I would, eat even when I wasn't hungry. So it was just kind of contributing to a cycle that wasn't helping me step out of stress eating and anxious eating. So this week, after coming back from clothes-free camping, that was so much fun. After coming out of that experience where I didn't have coffee all weekend, I had some teas. Most of them were not caffeinated or had very little caffeine, but I was walking around in the hot sun feeling pretty fine, even though I didn't have all that caffeine. And my body was able to, my digestive system was able to do elimination just fine without it. So after coming out of that and realizing finally that one of the major differences is that I didn't feel overly worked up in a superficial way, I wanted to try not doing coffee in the mornings. And so changing the habit was a little bit rough, especially on days where I didn't really sleep the night before very well. But, and again, like some teas have the caffeine and whatnot, but it's different because I don't feel deranged and completely worked up after I have those. And so they're just a little bit milder for me. So I'm okay with having those at the moment. If it is caffeinated, and sometimes I just don't need a tea with caffeine, but if it is caffeinated, it doesn't derange me. And so it's just fascinating because I had this cycle and I just kept doing it, and finally I just didn't. And, it's not without its effects of having to change my thought process and the compulsion to just go and have coffee every morning. So, I was like, I have to think of things differently now. So if I don't go and have that, what can I have instead? Because I still like having some sort of warm morning beverage. So that's kind of where I am, is I get to experiment with other types of warm morning beverages, whether it's tea or some sort of like hot water with lemon or something like that. So I'm just trying out new things and not really obsessing about trying to not obsess about, it has to look a certain way. But I wanted to share that because it was a coming together of that moment of you do things until you don't. And it's a pattern that has reflected also in my yoga practice, where I was really struggling for a while. And I'm studying a different style, but I hadn't completely given myself into practicing that style more often than other styles. And so, I was wondering, why aren't my hips opening more or faster, or why is this still an issue? And once I really committed to doing this style every day, even if it's just like my home practice, if I don't get to go to a studio session of it, now that I know how to do a home practice for myself and trust myself, my body is changing. Like, the things that I thought would never come, they are. And so, it's not like major, big, explosive things at the moment, but they're very noticeable in my body. Like, the shoulders and how they're getting stronger, like, and more stable. All the elements, muscles, and everything within that sort of shoulder, upper back area, and the arms, these things are getting stronger and more, a better range of motion, so that they can support me. But I couldn't get there because I was still doing my old patterns of yoga practice. And it was like, I was feeling frustrated, but it was the same thing. You'll keep doing that pattern until you don't. And so finally it was like, well, I actually just want my body to have a wider range of motion. And so then I did something else. So I want to offer that to you. If there's something, can you identify something in your life where you just think, I don't know why I always feel this way. I don't know why I always do this thing. I'm so aggravated and frustrated about this. I offer you the same thing. You keep doing something until you don't. And the invitation there is to hear that as not in a punitive way, but hearing the balance of a personal responsibility with the unknown of when exactly that change will take hold. So, and the personal part can just begin with observation of your pattern. That's how it started with me. Observing that every time I get stressed out or feel uncomfortable or feel anxious and nervous, I reach for salty, fatty thing. And that was it. That was just the first step, was just observing. Oh, I keep doing that. And then after that, it takes the path takes. So think of one thing, and the second you turn your mind to it in a devoted way, that's the beginning of the change. It's kind of like when you're driving and you turn on your turn signal before you actually make the turn. We hope. For those of you who don't use turn signals, by the way, what the heck? Use your turn signals. Back to the point. But putting your mind, just putting your focus just on the actual intention, like setting the intention, is the turn signal going on in your head and in your heart. Like everything that is sort of the unseen realm, that's the turn signal that goes on. And that is actually going to have an effect of just the fact that you begin to turn your focus to it. Then you're signaling, then you start to change lanes, and then you go in, and the turn will happen. You might not know exactly when or how long it'll take to get to that turn, but at least you've made the signal, you've turned on the signal within you. And so I give that to you this week. Pick one thing in your life where it's like, I'm just so frustrated that I always do this thing. Like if it's something that just doesn't feel like it's serving you, and you wonder, I don't know why I do this, or this, I'm just sick of this. Just turn your attention towards it. Turn the turn signal on and just think, I'll keep doing it until I don't. And you'll be surprised, as I was, that as you continue to devote your attention to it, the changes will actually happen. I don't know what those changes will look like. You might not know what those changes will look like. It might surprise you. I didn't think it would happen with coffee. I was kind of focusing on other stuff, but it was just this light bulb that went off this past week of like, coffee is actually just too deranging for me. It just gets me, it takes my anxiety level up, and my heartbeat and the nervousness that I feel, it just escalates it way too much. So, and be okay with things taking time. And I say that knowing that it can be very challenging to be okay and be patient with, the process, because I'm not always patient with myself. I'm not always patient with my process. Anyone who knows me could tell you that. So, so know, as always, that I'm right in the same boat with you, doing the same work, and we're in it together. So have a great week. Be with that, and be kind to yourself as you do this exploration, because the kindness is the only way that this is actually going to happen and take hold in a significant way that'll actually stay with you for your life. Anything that's unkind, it might have a temporary effect, but it won't last. I've been there before. I've done unkind things to myself when it comes to eating and whatnot. And the unkind approach does not work. It's a temporary fix. It's like, oh, I'm skinny again after, going through my purging phase of my eating disorder. And of course, the weight just comes back on, and all the habits and the tendencies stay with it. So be kind to yourself in the process if you want it to really take hold. Be patient and be you. Namaste, friends.